And today, the architecture that we're weaving, building, and activating is 5th, 6th, 7th. Ooh, density, technology. So firstly, to kind of get what is the third dimensional grid, because they're literally grids that birth realities. When you're in them, that is the limitations and the possibilities that you play with. So in a third dimensional grid, we've got to understand what forms that. Consciousness does. So to make this easier, in a one-dimensional grid, there is only one consciousness, one stream. And if we were in a one-dimensional grid, well, it would be very simple. We would just be. In a two-dimensional grid, the consciousness splits in two and can experience two perspectives. Wish I could like make myself go to, imagine like a whoop, I just warped into two Gabys. There's the other Gaby. And what happens is there's a filtration system, you know, within the grid. The grid changes and it's able to experience two. One has shifted into two and can look at itself and experience itself. And in the second dimension, there is this, me looking at me, 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 kind of like a tennis match where the ball keeps, you know, going back and forth. Not if you're playing tennis with me, because that wouldn't happen. Now, in the third dimension, there's a third perspective. The grid shifts again, yet this time it's able to, so imagine there's like a third Gaby that can see the other two Gabys. And of course, the Gaby is you. So whatever your name is, right? It's not just a me thing. So there's me looking at me and perceiving myself as two. And then there's a third that can observe the two. And so there's literally 3 points. Yeah. Now, in the third dimension, there's also the coding of linear time. What that means is there's the literal, within the grid itself, the architecture, there is linear time. Time is a concept and a construct. And within the third density, you know, everything has, everything goes into 2 places. It's like duality, contrast, exists within the third dimension. Because there is this experience of 2, something's slipped into 2. I can experience and I can observe. As we have evolved within the third dimension, to put this really simply, we made that a good, bad, right, wrong, yeah? That we can perceive that something can be wrong, something can be right, something can be good, something can be bad, something can be abundant, something can be scarce, not enough, more than enough. Yeah. And so within the money grids, this is literally woven in this whole, like within the 3D money grids, you cannot be within a 3D architecture without experiencing duality and contrast. You can find yourself making money here and whoa, you know, in comparison to others, you're doing really great, right? And you can also find through contrast, you know, someone could become a millionaire here, then meet a billionaire and in 1 second go from feeling pretty good about themselves to, oh man, I'm not even scratching the surface of what's possible. Then a billionaire could meet a trillionaire and be like, oh man, I'm not even like, I'm nowhere. Give me a yes if you can feel this, if you can resonate that this is literally how we create realities, react with realities. Yeah, yes, 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 beautiful. Now, on top of this, because of this split, because of one splitting into 2, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, because one splits into 2, and in the third dimension, we're, you know, playing with such a spectrum of emotions, such a spectrum of, you know, like there can be so much love, so much joy, so much happiness, and so much sorrow, so much grief, so much pain, so much fear. Whew. You know, the range is quite large. A nervous system exists, meaning that within us, within the animal kingdom, we have a nervous system and a defense system. And this serves really, really well for us. It's designed to tell us, is something safe? Is it not safe? Yet, generally speaking, our nervous systems are literally woven into every single grid. Let me explain. And so, because in the third dimension there is this split, there is bad, wrong, safe, unsafe, then the nervous system is reacting this way. It perceives the universe this way. And therefore, woven into the money grid is our nervous system. So when there's lots of money and we feel good and we feel secure, our nervous system chills, we are happy. It's really easy. This is why, often people say it's making our first million is the hardest, but once we make the first million, going forward, it's so much easier, because usually, and this is not for everyone, once we've shifted and gone into a higher amount of income creation, we've got more money and we're no longer stressing about the little things. And the nervous system is not activating anymore. That's literally what then has the person be able to hold the frequencies of higher abundance, hold a higher abundant quota, anchor into more abundant timelines and realities, and continue creating more and more abundance. Yet when our nervous system is woven into money, if I'm a millionaire and I go meet a billionaire, guess what can happen to my nervous system? Have a guess. Tell me in the comments. If I'm a millionaire, I've got what I need. I've got a good house. I can go into scarcity. Isn't that mind-boggling? It makes total sense to go into survival mode if you're living on the street and you've got no roof over your head and you've got no food and no water. Yeah, sure, if my nervous system activates when all of that's happened, kind of valid, Yet if my nervous system is activating, perceived lack, not enough, exactly right, feelings of not enough, yep. That's because in this grid architecture, and please know that this doesn't change in fourth dimension. In this grid architecture, there is a weaving of consciousness. As long as we believe that two things exist separate to each other, we will be in a universe where there is fear and safety, and they're separate to each other. We can either be safe or unsafe. We can't be both. And in the fourth dimension, it's the same. Fourth dimension simply shifts the grid and gives a fourth perspective. And in the fourth perspective, it takes the concept of time and it allows us to co-create no longer with just linear time. It has us see multi-dimensional time. And in the fourth dimension is the beginnings of entering the quantum, the beginnings of the non-physical realm. And this is where we're going into more than one. So what I mean by this is it now enables us to experience ourselves as more than just one consciousness. It enables us to start to really experience ourselves, in different lifetimes, in different incarnations, on different planets. We can have memories from different lifetimes. We're beginning, the becoming multidimensional perspective. Time shifts, time warps. For those of us that shift and go through the fourth dimension, this is where whoa, I can't believe 6 months just went past. It feels like years, so much has changed in the last 2 years. It feels like a decade. This kind of warping happens because the fourth perspective is looking at time as a whole. It's able to go whoof and see time as one unified field and see all time happening at the same time. Yet within the fourth dimension, we still have, everyone's like, yep, time warps. In the fourth dimension, we still have the one that's been broken into two. There is still a concept of duality. And when we have this concept of duality, which means something separates, and this is literally a concept, our body feels this, our nervous system interprets this, then what happens is we make things mean things. So money equals something. It'll be money will equal success, safety, or money will equal failure. And so it's literally here's this thing that's just money. Money is legitimately empty and meaningless. It's just money. It's just a resource. And I don't say that to belittle money. Money is a beautiful resource. Oxygen is a resource, that food is a resource, yet the narrative that we give it comes from this construct, comes because our nervous system is woven into it, because our nervous system is giving that meaning at the depth and core levels, and the programs and the plugins at the subconscious in the blueprint of us that have us be susceptible to even co-create with these grids are two main things: fear, plugins and co-creations with the frequency of fear. And so today, with your permission, we're going to be doing a big abundant flood bath into your field. Literally, you're going to receive a beautiful shower of abundance codes, and they're going to be turning like plugins, and they're going to be literally transforming the quantum blueprint within you and taking the fractals of fear inside of your blueprint and turning them back into light, turning them, like increasing the light quota in them, because the light quota in fear is quite small. Everything is light. There's either less light or more light. And so we're going to expand expand fear in this regard in order to be able to shift and receive the upgrades that we're sharing with you. And this is how the nervous system unplugs. Once we shift and evolve and transform this, the nervous system just like unplugs out of here, unplugs out of there, unplugs, because its sole purpose is keeping you safe. Its sole purpose, is co-creating with an environment. The other piece that we'll be working with you on, with your permission, is templates and programs of not enoughness. Any like imprints and like frequency signals of not enoughness. Shanikti alasatai, because they're also pathways into the old grids. Nakti alasatai, utuma. And so now I want to share with you, what does a 5th, 6th, 7th dimensional grid look like? Because this is the grids that we're taking a beautiful journey into today and anchoring and stabilizing. Please know that every single one of you, because you've said yes to this, you already have a connection to the new grids. You wouldn't even be here if you didn't have a connection to the new grids. You couldn't receive this. There's plenty of people on the planet that wouldn't even see me sharing this event. They're not in the vibrational frequency to receive it. And so I want to acknowledge every one of you, because you've already done a substantial amount of work in your field to even be here, because you're already co-creating this at a multidimensional level. Other versions of you in the quantum now are already co-creating with the new grids at a deeper level. Your 5th, 6th, 7th dimensional selves have literally guided you here. And can we just take that moment, because this is important. It's already done. It's already within us. We're simply taking the journey. It's like the view at the top of the mountain already exists. We're just walking up the beautiful mountain, feeling blessed. Yes, I love you. Love you too, gorgeous. Oh, thank you, blessed. Naik ta'ala. You're so welcome. Oh. So when we look at 5th, 6th, 7th dimensional architecture, I want to start with 5th for a moment, because what happens is there's a 5th perspective. The grid changes. It's a completely different architecture. Oh. And it unifies duality and places it into a unified field, still acknowledges it, yet as opposed to it being separate, two separate things, they become unified, which means they exist together. And the concept of right and wrong goes away, because only with 3rd, 4th density can any association with that Can there truly be a perception of this right and wrong? So what I mean by this is, if we were to take financial abundance and then financial scarcity, so let's just go with $1 billion cash and 0 in the bank account, cool? And we were to put them together, and invite you into the perspective of your soul, money becomes empty and meaningless. And what I mean by this is, it's clear. There's nothing attached to it when you shift it. Let me explain. Nata uta. 0 means 0. $1 billion means $1 billion. That's it. There is no $1 billion. This means I'm rich. I made it. I can get all the hot people in the world to date me. The whatever, right? I can drive, that car, and it doesn't mean any of it. 0 also comes from a place of empty and meaningless. It's, okay, I got 0. 0 means 0. It just means 0. It doesn't mean we failed. It doesn't mean we suck. It doesn't mean that we're about to die. There's no meaning to it. Instead, we just get to see everything in its beautiful space and accept that everything gets to exist however it wants to. And then the journey shifts, because we shift into co-creation. At the 5th dimensional level, as we unify, we form a unified field. It's no longer 2 things and a 3rd thing looking at them. See the separation. 3 separate things. Here's the good, here's the bad, here's me looking at it. We begin to unify this. And so it's me and these, whatever I create in my reality, whatever I perceive in my reality is me. These 2 things. And by the way, what we then realize is it was never actually 2 things. It was infinite things. There was an abundance of things that we filtered into 2. But there was so many of those things. So many possibilities and timelines exist that they fall out of my hand. And then we get to be like, oh, how am I creating all of this? How beautiful is all of this? Look at all these amazing creations. And if we wish to expand upon this, if we wish to add to this, then we need abundance. Then we do so with no meaning. All of it is us. We return back to the memory that all of it is us. Everything is us. And when $1 million doesn't mean anything, meaning $5 and $1 million is a reflection of money. That's all there is to it. When we see 1 loaf of bread or 10 loaves of bread, would you agree that we just see bread? Yet, sumak tiala satai usutai 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 usutai. In order for us to fully anchor and stabilize, wow, makes so much sense. Right, Christy, it's just bread. It's just bread. In order for us to stabilize into the new grids where we get to view money for what it is. Money's money. Bread is bread. Lettuce is lettuce. Broccoli is broccoli. They all just get to be. Now, within the 3rd and 4th density grid architecture with money, when people stay in those grids and they continue working on money, the journey never ends. It can't end because there's layer upon layer of worthiness. There's always coming back to expanding fear. There's always coming back to, letting things go.